Hi everyone, this is Rachel at StudioUs with another at-home drawing lesson for you guys. Today we're going to take on a really pretty hummingbird using markers. So go ahead and grab your materials and we'll get started. So we've got our blank piece of paper as well as our drawing pencil, a Sharpie marker, and a large eraser to clear off any big pencil lines. We'll go ahead and get started with our drawing. First thing we're going to do is divide this paper into quarters. So I'm looking for the middle line vertically and the middle line horizontally. And our first shape, the top kind of hits that mid-vertical line and the bottom hits that mid-horizontal line. Ends up right in that upper right quadrant of the paper, right in the corner near the center. So we'll dot out our top, bottom, and sides. Sketch in that oval shape that's kind of tilted at an angle. Fine tune your shape as you go, make sure it's looking just right, clean up any pencil lines you don't like. And we're good to go. So next we'll add the head, and what I look for here is how much of the shape is inside our first shape and how much is outside. So I just got a little bit of overlap, dotting it out and then drawing it in. Making sure to tip the head in an opposite direction and include our little bridge line. Next we'll erase out those center lines that connect the head to the body. And start dotting out our wing. So I look for where it crosses over the line of the body, how far into the body it goes, and how far out it goes on the page. It's going up to that upper right corner. I'm going to get a nice point on the wing. So I give myself a few guide dots to help me sketch it in, and then draw in my final shape. Next we're going to start adding the shape for the tail. So again, marking out where it crosses over the main line for the body, how far out it goes and how far in it goes, then draw it in. We've got a few lines to clear up with our eraser, so we'll get the body line going through the wing and the lines connecting our tail to our body to make that one solid piece. Touch up anything that got erased as you go. And next we'll start adding in the tail feathers. So I look for where it starts, how far out it goes, where it ends, how far down that goes. Now the bottom of that tail kind of tips down at an angle, so I'm going to mark that out as well, make sure I'm getting my length just right, and then draw it in. From there we're going to add in our second wing, marking out how high it goes, where it starts and ends. We're also going to add in the start for our feathers on that front wing. And our beak. And you want to watch the angle of this beak here. It's kind of pointing out and down, and it lines up right where the tail feathers hit that body. That's a good guide to help you figure out how long it should be. Here we're going to add in the face shape. So just a little curve. And we're going to get the shape for the first feather coming off the wing. We'll also go ahead and get that first petal for our flower. So what I'm looking at here is how much it comes off on either side of that beak. Beak is kind of pointing to the middle of that shape, and it's shaped a bit like a bean. A little bit of erasing, taking out that line in the wing, line connecting the bump there, and we've got a little line in the beak as well. Clear that out. Start adding in the bumps, so I'm going to mark out the middle, split the two spaces on either side in half, and then and draw a very slight curve coming off of that line, going between each point. Next, we're going to add in the feathers, and these are just little sideways J shapes. So I mark where I start, add them in. Every time you add one, it should run into the side of the J from the last one you drew. So they all kind of connect and build out that nice bumpy feathery texture on the wing. We'll do the same thing to the back wing. This one's got 4 much smaller bumps, so I'm going to mark where it starts and ends. Get those bumps in there. And then using that same sideways J technique, these are a little bit more slanted, but the same process to get those feathers in there. After that, we're going down to the tail, still using that same J technique. These are going to curve a little bit as we build them around the tail, but they still come down around, and they all connect right on that line that we drew as the first guide for our tail shape. Get his little eye in there as well. And we've got some erasing to do, so we're going to clear out all of those guidelines we had to help us get the shape for our feathers, so that we're just left with the bumpy parts. So what I do is I erase the line completely and then draw back in the lines I need to keep. We'll get the line out of his eye as well, and then go into the wing. Erase the line completely, just going down the line, and then I'll draw back in my bumpies. Alright, we'll get the last spot on that back wing. Good to go. Alright, we're going to build these petals out on the flower. And what I look for here is which petal is in the front. So I'm going to start with this one on the right side. Get curved around. Go over to the left side, that one's in front as well. Mark out where it starts, where it ends, how far out it goes. Curve it around. And now with these last two, I notice that the one on the left side comes in front of the one on the right side. So I'm going to get that left one first. It comes just past the beak. And then I can get that last shape for the right one. And that way they all stack up in the right order. Where those lines start and end, we'll get the body of that flower, and then we've just got some nice leaves to add. So I'm looking at where they start, which petal they come off of, and then drawing that nice jagged shape. Same with the top, I look at which petal it comes off of and get a little jagged shape connecting it down. You can also get the little circle in our hummingbird's eye. Finish up, we've got these little slanted W shapes to give our hummingbird some feathers. And some lines in our leaves to finish everything out. Alright, we've got our drawing all set. Go ahead, grab your Sharpie marker and start going over your pencil lines with the Sharpie. Take your time, make sure you're staying right on top of the pencil lines. If you need to correct anything, go back in with your pencil, erase it out, and then draw it back in before we do our Sharpie lines. If you do have a little mistake like I did on that leaf, don't worry about it. You can always erase the pencil lines underneath, but always try to do your best and take your time. Alright, we've got our Sharpie lines all finished. Grab your eraser, clean out all the pencil lines underneath your Sharpie lines, and we'll get ready to color. So we're going to start with a light blue, and I'm going to carefully outline the hummingbird, as well as the flower and the leaves. Anywhere those Sharpie lines touch a blue background spot, I want to outline that, so I have a nice buffer around my main subjects. Take your time with the outline. You want to get right up next to those Sharpie lines and make it look nice and neat. I'll outline the outside edge of our picture as well. And then what I'm going to do is, using the flat side of that marker, I've got it tipped down a little bit. I'm just working back and forth, going really slow, letting the ink soak into that paper and filling in my background. And you can see as I'm doing this, I don't really change direction, so I don't start going side to side and then switch to up and down. I want to keep it going nice and even. Try to follow the same direction as much as I can. I'm letting the marker run into my little outline edge so that I don't have to worry about stopping right on the edge of the hummingbird or on the edge of the paper. If you're coloring super fast and you notice that your marker starts to dry up, try just going a little bit slower. Sometimes when you're wiggling that marker really fast on the paper, it can actually heat the marker up and make it dry up a little bit. And you think your marker is out of ink, but really it just needs a little rest. So it's always good to go nice and slow with these. And it helps give that ink a little extra time to soak into the paper so you get a nice thick color. Almost done with our last bits of blue. On to our next color. I'm going to grab our yellow and get just those lightest highlights on the tops of the wings and the head. After that, we're going in with a nice bright lime green, and I'm going to outline where I see the color stopping on the belly, so it kind of goes under those first two W's. We're going to leave a patch light to get that tan and then fill the rest in bright green. We can go ahead and get the bright green spots on the wings and the head as well, and I'm very careful to outline my highlight so that I'm not going over that little bit of yellow. I always want to put the lightest colors on first and then build up darker. Get the highlights on my leaves too. Just a couple little slashes on the top bits of the leaves where they're sticking out. From here we're going to go in with a green. First thing I'm going to get is the shadows on top of my lime green. So you can see here we're using a darker color and we're able to put it on top of the lighter color to build up those shadows. Going under some of the W's. After that, we'll go ahead and fill in our big leaves. So just like I did with the background, I'm outlining any areas where they touch a Sharpie marker or where they touch my highlights. And then I'll fill that in nice and even. Same process with the next leaf. Outline all my edges first, and then go back in with the side of the marker and fill it in nice and even. You can go ahead and take that same green and color in the tail. Take a seafoam green, or a very light green, get the two highlights on the wings, and then switch back to our regular green, leaving out those highlights at the tops, fill the rest in green. Go ahead and finish up our greens for this project. So I'm going to take my darkest green, which is an emerald color, and get all of the shadows on these leaves. So they go under the lines, under the flower, and on any edges that have a darker shadow. We're also going to get all of the shadows on each of the feathers. These kind of go on one side of each of the feathers. On the tail, it's on the right side. On the wings, it's on the bottom, following those black lines. There we go. Next, we're going to take a beige, fill in the very light tan spot on our hummingbird's chest. You can also use the same color as a very pale pink to get the highlights on each of the petals of the flower. From there, we'll take a pink, color in the rest of the flower. Careful to get our outlines, and also careful to avoid our highlights. Alright, we've got all of our pink in. I'm going to give that a second to dry and grab a raspberry color to fill in the darker pink spot on the hummingbird's face. Once we've got that in, we can grab a light kind of pinkish purple. This is Wild Orchid. And we're going to layer that over the pink to get that purpley pinkish shadow on all of the flower petals. We can also use that color to get a little bit of shadow on the hummingbird's face. Here we go. Real quick, we'll grab a gray to get the highlight on the beak, then a Sharpie marker to get the black part of the beak and the black part of the eye. And that will do it for this hummingbird. Hope you guys had a great time, and we'll see you for the next one.